Well, a few weeks ago, Scott and I had the opportunity to go to Fredericksburg, Virginia, the battlefield and the town of Fredericksburg. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful trip. Fredericksburg is one of the important battles of the Civil War. It's also one of the battles that is noted because the South actually won that particular battle.
Yeah, but they almost didn't win it. If Burnside had only been able to get across the Rappahannock River there in time, he would have been able to capture the town and really get Lee just where he wanted him. But Lee got there first, got the high ground, and this is what happened. See how Burnside, he had to get his soldiers across the river, but the Confederates were shooting at him.
Well, he couldn't because of bureaucratic nonsense. They were supposed to build these pontoon bridges. You can see one there in that picture, actually. And it took a lot longer to get them delivered. So Lee had a lot of time to set up a high ground here at a place called Mary's Heights, which is probably one of the big famous areas of the Battle of Fredericksburg. Here we are at the actual site there, and there's Mary's Heights with one of the docent rangers.
She was terrific.
She was
loved her.
great.
Yeah.
Everybody was great. I was really surprised, actually, at
See, there's the crowd. They're up there looking at the sunken. We're approaching the sunken road right now.
And there's the wall. There's a famous stone wall. Actually, that's a recreation built by WPA workers of the actual stone wall, which I think you'll see in a painting that may come up, and you'll see that it's a lot rougher in the actual. This is sort of a pretty version of what it really was.
And here's the Irish Brigade doing one of their 5 charges up Mary's Heights that day.
That's right. And then if you look at that little house in the painting on the left, you'll see this is the actual house there, photograph. Very tiny. It was right in the middle of the crossfire.
It's called the Innes House.
The Innes House, that's right. And they it was just riddled with bullet holes.
There you are,
on the outside,
pointing to that bullet hole.
But if you look in the inside, which you can't go in, but you can look in the windows, it's just riddled.
And this is a statue memorializing an act of generosity the first night after the battle when a Confederate soldier went out, when the Union soldiers were just in that cold, cold field without water and everything. He brought them water. And as you can see, a chicken could not live on that field when we opened on it. I guess it was just the Confederates just had it all over the Union.
Well, they were on the high ground, and so there wasn't much that they could do to take that high ground. It's actually confined now with a lot of development, so you have to use your imagination, but these pictures will give you a good comparison. And there's the sunken road, and that's, I would say, Confederate dead because they were behind the wall.
That was shot only a few days after the battle. And there we are, getting ready to go to the next place.
Which is Lee's Hill. So here we are. This is Lee's Hill. It's actually the vantage point that Lee used. It's up a hill, winding, switchbacky hill.
Look, here they are. Here we're all getting ready to march up that. I just imagine like we're Lee and we're Longstreet walking up that height, trying to find a good place to look at the battle.
I didn't need to imagine. It was a really hot, humid Virginia day.
Yeah, it sure was. And here you come.
Yeah, and let me tell you, it's a hot day there.
And
so
you're
you struggle up.
Very excited.
I didn't realize it was going to take as long.
And there we go.
That's at the top of the hill. That's the vantage point.
And coming up is General Longstreet, and he was Lee's old horse, Lee liked to call him, because he was very dependable. He was actually the defender of the Confederate left. And everybody knows who this is, Robert E. Lee. Yeah. He commanded the whole Army of Northern Virginia. And he faced a new Union general named Ambrose Burnside.
And now, did Burnside ever cross over, or was he always on the other side of
He was always a Union. He took over.
I mean cross over the river, Scott, not the...
No, I think he stayed on the other side, but I'll tell you that the day after the battle, he offered to lead one last charge himself, but his other subordinates said, no, you're not going to do that because...
Suicidal.
Yeah. Now, this is the view that Lee had, if you could imagine, without those trees.
They left the trees because it is a very built-up area. I mean, if you remember, they told us that they left that just so you get that kind of imaginary feeling of what it was like. So after Lee's Hill, you continue on to Prospect Hill, which is an important part of that Battle of Fredericksburg, actually probably a more important part than Marye's Heights. It was the right flank of the Confederate, is that right?
Right, and this was commanded by Stonewall Jackson down on this end.
They held off firing the Confederates for hours while the Union bombarded them. It earned the hill, the Dead Horse Hill moniker, because so many horses were killed. People were constantly running into a forest behind them to wait out this bombardment before they would return fire.
See those indentations in the ground? That's where they actually put their cannon, they told us, but I guess they weren't really dug very well.
Well, only one, which was interesting. There were 19 cannons, and only one of them actually knew how to dig the ditch, which I didn't realize. I figured somebody would be watching the store. But
this is our terrific guide. Oh, Sean. What was his name?
His name was Frank O'Reilly, and we found out later that he is a noted author and an expert in the Battle of Fredericksburg.
And there's the general who actually commanded the Union left that had the job of going up against Stonewall Jackson, General Meade, who later would distinguish himself at the Battle of Gettysburg.
So he actually broke through the Confederate line, didn't he?
For just a little bit, just a little bit. And a lot of it was
60 feet or something.
A lot of it was by luck, because there was so much mud in the ground that the Confederates couldn't tell who was a Confederate, and the Union couldn't tell who was a Union, so they got through.
Is this Stonewall Jackson?
This is Stonewall Jackson, the famous Stonewall. But I'll tell you, he did a great job that day, but it was really his second in command, Jubal Early.
Whom he didn't like. Jubal Early, he had been disciplined earlier because he'd been drunk and insulted him. So
But
I find that funny.
Stonewall told Jubal to go somewhere else in the battlefield, but Jubal stayed there, and he actually stopped the Union advance.
So he disobeyed the order and fought back.
Yeah. And this is after the battle right here.
There's some of the horses from the Dead Horse Hill. Some of the wounded. Dead.
Yeah, and that's right there at Fredericksburg. Sean, I just got to thank you for taking me here to this battlefield, because when you get to go there and have a really great guide like we had, this land comes alive again.
It really, truly, you feel sort of honored to be able to be there, don't you?
Yeah.
It was a wonderful day, and with just very informative, wonderful guides. And I encourage people to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, Sean, I'm sure we're off for more adventures coming up.
I know. I'd like to go someplace cooler next time.
Let's do that.